Your financial past could come back to haunt you when it comes time to buying a house, so it is very important to know your credit score and make sure you have good credit reports. Here to explain is Chuck Sederstom with Finance One. Chuck, thank you so much. This is so important.
Well, thank you for having me back, Courtney. It's very important, yes.
And the credit report is very important. Now, we've talked about credit kind of in the past. How does this apply to getting a loan?
Well, first off, a credit report is going to be pulled on every buyer in order to get a mortgage loan, and in fact, probably any loan. So let's really quickly just talk about what a credit report is.
Sure.
Pretty simple, but it is a report in code. We need to make sure we're protecting people's identities and account numbers and things of that nature that identifies the status of a person's current credit accounts and past credit accounts. And within that, it's going to identify how one paid those accounts. Now, in addition, there's going to be some identification as to if there were any collections or judgments or bankruptcies, in other words, things that are maybe public record. But simply put, it is a status of a person's current and past accounts. Now, in addition, a credit report is going to contain something called a credit score, and you so accurately mentioned. Some refer to this as a FICO score, F-I-C-O, which stands for Fair Isaac Credit Organization, who invented this. Essentially, what's happened over the years, Courtney, is the components of a credit report have been converted to a number, in other words, this credit score, so that computers can understand what's on a credit score. You know, at the end of the day, most all of these loans are underwritten by a computer. So, credit scores are a key component of a credit report, so it's important that people understand how that is affected. And then one of the final components is there's some fraud detection information. For example, if an individual is using a social security number that doesn't match up with their name, the systems within the credit reporting agencies are going to trigger that and give us something called a fraud alert and identify any inconsistencies or overuse of a person's credit that wasn't authorized by them.
And that can happen.
It can happen. We've heard of identity fraud, for example.
Oh, boy. So that is something you really got to take into consideration. How often should you get a credit report? You
know, most experts, and I agree, should probably would suggest that you look at your credit at least once a year. There's a number of different services that exist that will do this for you. For example, it's almost become a cultural icon, and that's the young guy playing the guitar on the TV talking about mycreditreport.com or freecreditreport.com. It's important to understand that the free credit report aspect is if you set up with their service so as to have them monitor it for you. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. It is a service that will keep you in tune with your credit, sends you alerts if somebody's pulled credit that you didn't authorize, things of that nature. So, as we look at a person's credit report, while there may be some things that identify themselves as fraud detection items, as I just mentioned, that shouldn't relieve an individual's personal responsibility to make sure they're watching their own personal credit report. So once a year is the short answer.
So if there is something on there, and say somebody has spent all this money, you go to use your credit card and they're saying, hey, you're over your limit. You're thinking, what did I do? I haven't used this card forever. It is your responsibility to go in there and make sure that you get it taken care of.
That's right. And that in and of itself may not be indicative of identity fraud or anything of that nature. In fact, one might want to talk to their spouse if that were to occur. But the fact of the matter is, yes, it's important to stay in tune with what's on there because it is our individual responsibility as to what's on there. Now, we can talk a little bit about how to address any errors in future segments. But at the end of the day, yes, we need to make sure we're watching that.
Okay, so it's pretty easy to get your own credit report.
It's very easy to get your own credit report. In fact, I do want to point out that in addition to pay-for services such as freecreditreport.com, if one were to go to annualcreditreport.com, that is a site sponsored by the 3 credit repositories that allows you to view your credit. You can get 1 free report per year, and again, back to our once-a-year thing. And you can actually dispute or go after correction for those particular inappropriately reported items.
And if people are looking to get a loan, Chuck, and they don't have good credit, or they maybe have some bad credit and need some answers, who should they call?
Well, they should call me, of course, at 502-6501, or they could access the web at finance1, that's the number 1.us. And on there, a person can put in their information on an application. We can talk to them and counsel them about what's on their credit report and actually take steps to help them repair that.
That's great, Chuck. Thanks for the work.
Thanks for having me.
Alrighty, and coming up, get the latest on the performance from the Rose Theater. It's next right here on Omaha Life.